तो हमारे यहाँ लोगों को ये नहीं समझ आता कि धंधे में और स्टार्टअप में फ़र्क क्या होता है। करोला 50-60 हज़ार रुपए की मिलती थी महीने की, साल में पूरी करोला पे ऑफ कर दी। जब आप फंड्स रेज करते हैं, आपके पास अचानक $10 मिलियन आ गए, आपने कहा यार मैं 80 रुपए में कर देता हूँ तुम्हें भाई। वो बंदा कहता है यार कर ले भाई, मेरे पूरे कंपनी का उठा ले, बल्कि मेरे 10 और दोस्त हैं उनका भी काम कर ले। बर्निंग कैश टू मेक मनी। ग्रोथ इज नॉट फ्यूल्ड बाय मनी, ग्रोथ इज ड्रिवन बाय पीपल. People have to do the tasks. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. हिचकिचाहट है, नहीं यार मामू से मैं कैसे बात करूँ। अबे भाई पैसे रेज कर रहे हो, अपनी हिचकिचाहट को निकालो साइड पे और आग लगा दो। रात को 3 बजे अगर आपका फ़ोन बजे, because somebody in the US doesn't know what time zone you're in, you have to be able to wake up and without opening your eyes, you should be able to pitch. One of them was a picture of a bride on a motorcycle and the tagline was, अगर आपको अपनी शादी से भागना हो तो करीम बाइक बुलाएं. We had to remove the whole campaign within 8 hours and it was on like 40 billboards across Punjab. पूरे पंजाब से उतारना पड़ा और major backlash हुआ था. And by definition, if an ad works when you take out your brand and replace it with another brand, that is a BS ad. An ad needs to be so tailored to the brand that if you remove that brand and try to put another brand in that, the ad will not work. People will say नहीं ये झूठ बोल रहे हैं, ये इस product का ad है ही नहीं. In 10 months we did 1 billion rupees of sales.
हेलो एवरीबॉडी, वेलकम बैक टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ हसल. मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट महाम खालिद और मेरे साथ आज जो गेस्ट हैं वो बहुत ही स्पेशल हैं और मैं बहुत एक्साइटेड हूँ उनको इंटरव्यू करने के लिए. इतने सारे एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं दैट आई एम स्केयर्ड ऑल्सो, अ बिट नर्वस दैट आई एम सिटिंग विद सच एक्सपीरियंस पर्सन राइट नाउ. सो बिट ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शन, ही हैज़ वर्कड एज हेड ऑफ मार्केटिंग लॉट ऑफ फर्म्स. ही इज़ बिन एसोसिएटेड टू some investment corporations as well, related to VC funding. So he has vast experience with I think 15 plus corporations, which I will be unable to mention क्योंकि सिर्फ introduction ही चलता रहेगा अगले 15 मिनट. So let's discuss his journey. Omar Abedin, कैसे हैं आप?
बिल्कुल ठीक, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking out time. I was very confused यार, मैं कहाँ से शुरू करूँ, कहाँ ख़त्म करूँ. इतना सारा काम किया है माशाल्लाह, इतनी अच्छी जर्नी है आपकी. But सबसे पहले you have to take us through your journey in a short time period. But आप मुझे बताएं कि आपकी जर्नी कहाँ से शुरू हुई, कहाँ आपने काम किया. You went to abroad, you worked in Middle East, then you came back to Pakistan. About it.
Sure. So for most of your viewers, when I talk about the 90s, they'll be like, wait, what 90s? So I graduated from IB in 1991, and at that time there was only one business school in Pakistan. LUMS was just becoming a thing, right?
Okay.
So जब हम graduate हुए थे, life was very good. There were only 45 MBAs in the whole of Pakistan in that year. और सबको jobs मिल गई, सब बड़े खुश. So I wanted to work in marketing from day one.
Okay.
And in 30 years, I've always worked in marketing, but never twice in the same vertical. So
Okay.
I started with Philips, consumer electronics, went to Reckitt and Coleman, which is household cleaning products. I used to work on a brand called Cherry Blossom, which was shoe polish back in the day. Right?
अच्छा.
So, and then I transferred with Reckitt to Dubai in 1996.
Okay.
And that's when I left Pakistan. And I had no intention of coming back.
Okay.
Because मैं पाकिस्तान से उस वक्त बिल्कुल बेजार हो चुका था, दिल उठ चुका था मेरा. इतनी पेटी करप्शन और ये छोटी छोटी जो हमारी चीज़ें हमें तंग करती है ना, वो मेरा सब्र का पैमाना लबरेज हो चुका था. And 96 I left. I went to Dubai. I worked with Reckitt for 3 years. And then I went to Saudi Arabia. Actually, I joined Johnson & Johnson, which was now personal care products. And I worked with J&J in Dubai and then in Saudi. And then I moved to Canada, with J&J.
Okay.
And I was working on women's health, which was, as a man working in women's health, it was really extremely informative. More information than most men need to have about women's health, honestly.
Okay.
And then in 2004, so this was in Montreal, Canada, and spent 3 years there. And then I moved to Toronto and I worked with a company called Novartis, which was pharmaceuticals, first time in pharma. And I was working on a North American brand from Toronto, so which meant I was flying from Toronto to the US every week, sometimes twice a week and sometimes 3 times a week. So in 1 year, I traveled 50 times between Canada and the US. It was extremely stressful, but amazing learning. I got to work with an ad firm, on Madison Avenue in New York. So from a marketing standpoint, you know, you imagine managing a $30 million budget, and you're working with, you know, the gurus of
Wow.
advertising, Saatchi and Saatchi in New
Yes.
York.
Yes.
It was amazing. And then 2007, we got, you know, the Canadian citizenship, and then we left. Canada was too cold for us, and it was too far for us. My parents were in Pakistan,
Okay.
so we moved back to Dubai, and then I joined an ice cream company as the head of marketing. So again, food never done before. 3 साल ice cream बेची और खाई. That was an amazing job because I love ice cream, and I used to take my kids and their friends to the ice cream factory every month. So I was the most popular uncle of all the uncles in my kids group, right? Because I used to take them for free ice cream in the factory. Anyway, did that, and then 2010, I started my first business in Dubai.
Okay.
And this was in the middle of the recession. There was a global downturn,
Okay.
real estate meltdown happening in 2008, 2009. 2010, in the middle of all this, I started my own business. I started a company called 800 Battery in Dubai with a co-founder, and we were basically helping people who जिसकी गाड़ी ख़राब हो गई है ना, तो बैटरी डेड हो गई, आप हमें कॉल करें, हम आके बैटरी चेंज कर देंगे.
Okay.
Very simple, but at that time there were no apps,
Okay.
right? 4G was not a thing, so we were working on SMS,
अच्छा.
हाँ, and Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook पे लोग हमें मैसेज करते थे और हम उनके पास जाते थे.
Okay.
लोकेशन सेंड करने का कोई तरीका नहीं था. Google Maps was not a thing. Smartphones were not a thing at that point, right? So this was way before startups were a thing. So anyway, वो हमने किया. फिर साथ साथ मैंने एक ट्रेनिंग कंपनी भी स्टार्ट की, फिर एक मार्केटिंग कंसल्टिंग भी स्टार्ट की. खूब अच्छा काम चल रहा था. फिर one of my clients asked me to come on board with them full time, Al Ittihad Credit Bureau. And it was great. I was working in Fintech now, helping them to launch credit reporting in Dubai. वो 3 साल किया, और उसके बाद 2016 में मेरे भाई कनाडा चले गए.
Okay.
He was here in Pakistan all this time with my parents. Finally उसका Canadian immigration आया, so he left. And then I came to Karachi and I asked my parents कि भाई आ जाएं आप मेरे पास, छोटा सा घर है, आ जाएं, हमारे गरीब खाने में. क्या नहीं बेटा, हम तो नहीं कराची छोड़ रहे.
अच्छा. Okay.
हम तो नहीं जाते. क्यों? अब आप पूछे क्यों नहीं? क्योंकि इन्होंने सखी हसन जो ग्रेवयार्ड है, कब्रिस्तान है कराची का सबसे बड़ा,
हाँ.
1984 में उन्होंने उसके अंदर ज़मीन खरीदी थी. ठीक है कि यहाँ पे ये दफन होंगे, यहाँ पे ये दफन होंगे, पूरे मतलब फैमिली के लिए उन्होंने प्लॉट लिया था.
Okay.
और वो उस दिन से they have been prisoners of सखी हसन.
Oh God.
So मैंने उनसे कहा कि आप आ जाएं, अगर खुदा ना खासा कुछ हो गया मैं आपको ले आऊँगा सखी हसन, I'll bring you back. जैसे नहीं बेटा, तुम अगर हम वहाँ मर गए ना, तुम वहीं हमें गाड़ दोगे, तुम नहीं लेकर आओगे हमें वापस.
क्यों इसलिए नहीं पूछा था? Because I thought for the love of country.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. उन्होंने बस फैसला कर लिया था कि हम यहीं दफनाए जाएंगे. और अभी भी लास्ट वीक हमारे एल्डर की डेथ हुई है, वो भी उसी प्लॉट में दफन हुई है.
Okay.
So now there are 3 people buried in that plot, but there's space for 5 more. For all the elders in the family. ये मतलब designated जगह है सबकी. अब जब वो नहीं आ रहे थे तो मुझे आना पड़ा. तो 2017 में रोता गाता मैं कराची वापस आया, और फैमिली वही थी दुबई में.
Okay.
And I came back. I was very lucky. I joined Starcom, which is a media agency here. I joined them as CEO, and I worked with them for about a year and a half. And it was a great way to come back to Pakistan. Got to meet everybody. Everybody knew who I was, and Acha, Omar Abedin has come back to Pakistan. Acha, ye Salman Abedin, my brother who moved. Ye acha, unke bhai hain, right? So it was good. And then Kareem came along, and I took a pay cut,
Okay.
and a designation cut to join Kareem.
Okay, but why?
Because startup.
Okay.
Right? So media, I love media as an industry, but it's not my passion.
अच्छा.
Startups are my passion, right? So जब करीम में मार्केटिंग डायरेक्टर का रोल आया, मैंने इंटरव्यूज़ किए सब, वो CEO जॉब with this much money.
Exactly. I was,
Marketing director job with this much money, and people were like, what
I
are you
was
doing?
reading
Are you
it.
crazy? And I was like, no, I want to do
I was
this.
reading
And
experiences. I was like, यार ये CEO थे, उसके
हाँ.
बाद ये as a director marketing, why would he do that? और इतनी popular agency है, marketing agency है.
And Kareem at that time was not that big a deal, right? But I saw the
हाँ.
potential. I was very excited by the
हाँ.
team. They were amazing people. They were trying to do something, you know, trying to change the world in their own way. And so I joined Kareem. I was with them until it was bought out by Uber. And then I left along with everyone else, more or less. I joined a property technology company in Islamabad called Graana. And
Yes.
so, like I used to do between Toronto and New Jersey, I was doing from Karachi to Islamabad.
Okay.
So Monday की सुबह मैं इस्लामाबाद जाता था, Friday की रात को
अच्छा.
मरी हुई हालत में कराची वापस आता था. And I did that for a year and a half during COVID
Oh
as
my
well.
God.
So
And also
काफी
entered a different industry.
again property tech, right? So you've noticed no I've never gone and worked in the same
मैं
vertical
actually
again.
mention करने वाली थी a lot of times because we are addressing youngsters through this episode. So a lot of times जब भी कोई jobs ढूंढता है या काम शुरू करता है, there is this fear कि यार अगर मैं इस industry में चला गया तो अब मुझे अगली jobs ही उसी में करनी पड़ेंगी, because a lot of times जब जो hiring करते हैं and the people who are searching for people, वो ये देखते हैं कि background जो है वो उसी industry का हो जिसके लिए आप job देख रहे हैं.
And without trying to be offensive, those people are idiots. Because हम लोगों को साइलो कर देते हैं. हम कहते हैं यार ये बैंकिंग का मार्केट है,
हाँ.
ये फार्मा का मार्केट
हाँ,
है.
yes.
अब वो मजाक. अच्छा, लोग बात करते हैं करियर चेंज की है, they're saying यार मैं फार्मा से मैं निकलनी चाहती हूँ या मैं निकलना चाहता हूँ. I'm like, what? You're still in marketing. No, but you know वो बैंक में मुझे नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
that's
are
the
you
point.
serious? So this is why I have never repeated.
You're an
a
amazing
vertical.
example, successful example.
I don't know
of
about
this.
that. I just, for me, I need to learn, right? And so while learning about a discipline, so during this time, I wrote a book as well on marketing based on my experience, right?
Okay.
So I took 30 years of marketing experience and condensed it into 100 pages or 3 hours. You can listen to it in my voice as well.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Building Brand You. So I took marketing principles and applied it to you as a brand. So you should probably read this book as well, because you're on your journey of building your personal brand.
Yes.
And so, you know, the objective is that you should walk into a room and you don't need to introduce yourself. Right? That's the end goal. That you're a brand to the point where you walk in and, hey, how's it going? And people know who you are. And they know you by first name. अच्छा ये महाम है. ओ ये वो वाली महाम है. कौन सी वाली महाम? वो वाली महाम. अच्छा. Okay. वो वाली महाम. जिसने जुनेद भाई को इंटरव्यू किया था. Right? So the objective is, I'm not there yet, but it's a journey, right? And you keep doing things that help to strengthen your brand over time, and you do things that build your brand in a certain way. And so this book gives you the tools to do that. So so now during this journey, I've been getting closer and closer to startups, right? So while I was at Kareem, I was mentoring probably 10, 20 startups. And when I joined Graana, I realized that I wanted to do something more. So I started a venture studio called Park Tech Hub. And today we work with a dozen companies to help them, become profitable, to become sustainable businesses, and also to raise funds. And so then I joined the National Incubation Center because मेरी बस हो गई थी just traveling between Graana, between Islamabad and Karachi. तो जब कराची में जॉब आई, National Incubation Center में मैंने कहा यार यहाँ तो 250 startups हैं. I'll get to work with them every day. So I did that for about a year and a half. And then I said, the biggest frustration that startups have is the inability to raise funds. And I met in my 18 months, I met 1,000 founders in Pakistan and abroad. More than 1,000. I stopped counting after 1,000, right? And the biggest source of pain point was, यार मुझे $1,00,000 चाहिए, मुझे $50,000 चाहिए, मुझे $2 lakh. Like, we're not talking about people who are raising $10 million. I'm talking about people who need enough money to take their business to the next level. जो हम early stage investment बोलते हैं, right? Pre-seed or seed stage.
Exactly.
So then I started actively trying to raise my own fund. बहुत मैंने लोगों के पैर पकड़े, घुटने टेके कि यार भाई पैसे पाकिस्तान में डालने, पाकिस्तान. फिर ग्लोबल मेल्टडाउन शुरू हो गया. फिर पाकिस्तान के हालात माशाल्लाह, political uncertainty, inflation, dollar devaluation.
Yes.
So now, rather than trying to raise my own fund, I have joined a new fund that is coming back to Pakistan. It's a fund by the name of TMT Ventures, and I've joined them as their head of investments. So right now we are building our funnel, our investment funnel, and inshallah we will start investing from Q3, from July onwards.
Okay, since we are already on the topic of investment, so
Yeah.
मैं उस पे पहले सवाल करूँगी. क्या चीज़ें आप देख रहे होते हैं? Since you're investing on techs.
Not only tech.
Okay.
Not only tech. We are
Tech startups नहीं हैं.
नहीं. So it's
Okay.
not. We are sector agnostic, which means that you could be in any vertical, any industry. You could be tech enabled, or you could be a traditional business. But the business is not a धंधा. तो हमारे यहाँ लोगों को ये नहीं समझ आता कि धंधे में और स्टार्टअप में फ़र्क क्या होता है. So there are some differences, right? The biggest difference between a धंधा and a startup is scalability. Is it scalable or not? Which means कि अगर आपने आज एक दुकान खोल दी है यहाँ पे और आप कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स बेचते हैं, to scale that you have to open another दुकान and then another dukaan, right? And that is physically impossible. Like how many dukans can you open? How much money do you have, right? So normally when we talk about scaling, it's based on technology. अगर आपने पाकिस्तान में 10 करोड़ आवाम को रीच करना है, आप physically जाके लोगों से मिल तो नहीं सकते. You have to reach them through the phone in their hand. And that's where so that's why most of the investments coming in
tech-enabled startups
are coming into tech-enabled startups, but not because of the tech. But because they have the ability to reach more people.
Okay.
Tech allows greater reach. So scalability is the first thing we look at. The second one is growth.
Okay.
Now with the halat globally, the economic pressure, now we're talking about sustainable growth or self-sustaining growth, which means पहले क्या होता था? आपने इन्वेस्टर से पैसे लिए और मार्केट में अरबों रुपए आपने फेंक दिए.
हाँ.
करीम का क्या मॉडल था? करीम ने इन्वेस्टर से मेरा ख्याल है $700-800 million लिए थे over a period of 5-7 years, and that money was spent in marketing, was spent in bringing captains, bringing customers, customer subsidies. कैप्टन को ठोक के पैसे दिए. जब शुरू में करीम आया था पाकिस्तान, महीने में एक कैप्टन 1.5 से 2 लाख रुपए निकाल रहा था, और उस ज़माने में करोला 50-60 हज़ार रुपए की मिलती थी महीने की. तो लोगों ने पूरी करोला, उस ज़माने में 14 लाख रुपए की करोला थी, साल में पूरी करोला पे ऑफ कर दी. इतने पैसे कमाए हैं लोगों ने, राइट? बट दैट कांट लास्ट. करीम के साथ सबसे बड़ा फ़ायदा ये हुआ कि उनकी जो टाइमिंग थी 2019 में उन्होंने कंपनी बेच दी $3 अरब के लिए. और जब ये हुआ, पूरी दुनिया में ये धमाके की आवाज़ आई थी, बिकॉज अचानक लॉस एंजलिस, सैन फ्रांसिस्को, जिसको हम वैली बोलते हैं, पीपल they woke up and they said, wait, what? $3 billion? $3 billion with a B. That's 9 zeros. That's a lot of zeros. For a market like Middle East, Pakistan, that's an enormous, nobody had ever imagined कि इतना बड़ा exit region में हो सकता है. And it was phenomenal. अच्छा, उस वक्त 3,000 लोग काम करते थे करीम में. जब acquisition हुई तो that came down to 1,200, 1,400. तो जो 1,800 लोग बाहर निकले, उन्होंने अपनी कंपनियां शुरू की, क्योंकि सबने पैसे कमाए, राइट? एवरीवन हैड स्टॉक ऑप्शंस फ्रॉम करीम. सो even if you had this many stock options, you made $50,000, $30,000, राइट? इतने से स्टॉक ऑप्शंस के साथ. क्योंकि आप इमेजिन करें, 3 बिलियन का 1% इज 30 मिलियन. 0.1% इज $3 million, राइट? 0.00, मतलब आप हिसाब लगा लें.
I can understand.
So, अब those people, there are more than 100 companies that have been started by ex-Kareemers across not only Pakistan but across the Middle East as well. These people we call ourselves Kareemers, but the industry calls us the Karim Mafia.
अच्छा.
Because early 2000s में PayPal के साथ यही हुआ था, and they were called the PayPal Mafia because they weren't everywhere. Like they exploded and went everywhere, और वहाँ पे जो है ना उनके जरासीम फैल गए और उन्होंने पेपाल की तरह काम करना शुरू कर दिया. तो इस वक्त जो करीम इफेक्ट है, we are talking about hundreds of companies that have raised millions of dollars that are providing employment to thousands of people across the region right now, today. And there are so many well-known brands. अगर आप उसके बारे में आपको मैं बताऊं, you will be in shock कि अच्छा ये करीमर ने शुरू की. Oh God, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Right? So many. I don't even want to name them because if I forget someone, they'll get really pissed कि यार तुमने मेरा नाम नहीं लिया. But
talking about the point कि करीम ने ये किया था कि when they raised the funds, तो उन्होंने इस जगह पर लगाए. So what do you think कि जब कोई funds raise करे at the first attempt कहाँ पे spend करना चाहिए?
So we were talking about growth, right? So yes, you need to invest in growth. But that doesn't mean that you make a business model that is unsustainable. So for example, there's a delivery model that says कि जी मेरी एक cost है to deliver a package of 100 rupees. इससे कम अगर मैं पैसे लूँगा तो ये मेरे जेब से जाएंगे. ठीक है. तो आप क्या चार्ज करते हैं? आप 102 रुपए चार्ज करते हैं.
Okay.
ताकि आप नेगेटिव में ना जाएं. जब आप फंड्स रेज करते हैं, आपके पास अचानक $10 मिलियन आ गए. हाँ. आपने कहा यार मैं 80 रुपए में कर देता हूँ तुम्हें भाई. वो बंदा कहता है यार कर ले भाई, मेरा पूरी कंपनी का उठा ले, बल्कि मेरे 10 और दोस्त हैं उनका भी काम कर ले, क्योंकि मार्केट से रेट कम मिल रहा है आपको, क्योंकि 20 रुपए आप जेब से दे रहे हैं. सो दिस इज द ओल्ड अर्न एंड बर्न मॉडल, राइट? सो यू आर बर्निंग कैश टू मेक मनी, व्हिच इज
or to build the reach.
But now that doesn't work because now investors are saying भाई profitability बताओ, कब पैसे रेज होंगे, कब आपकी जो बॉटम लाइन है वो पॉजिटिव हो जाएगी. And so we're talking about sustainable growth. Okay. Right?
So they did that to build that customer base?
Yes.
Okay.
Acquire customers and acquire captains.
But so today if you have to build a customer base तो आपको कुछ ना कुछ advantage देना पड़ेगा. So if you are raising funds.
No, but not necessarily promotions, right? You can do it through advertising. You can do it through 100 other ways. Yes. Where you build a sustainable brand rather than a brand that's driven only by promotion.
So can you think of few things के once somebody raise the funds, तो क्या वो segments हैं जिन पे they should invest on?
The first, in my view, the first thing they need to do is to make sure their technology is sound, right? If you are providing a rubbish experience to your customers, they will leave. So your app, your technology, your website, whatever has to be very good. UI पे focus करें, user interface, user experience पे focus करें, build a product that is really solving a need. Not just flashy UI UX, but solving a real consumer need. Okay? Second, you need to invest on your own team. You need to get good people. Make sure that you have the right resources in place to be able to fuel that growth, because growth is not fueled by money. Growth is driven by people. People have to do the tasks. You can't hire ChatGPT at this point to do the tasks for you, because at the end of the day, ChatGPT cannot go and deliver packages. Cannot drive a car yet. It may do it at some point, but not yet. The third thing you will invest in is marketing and branding, right? So you need to build your brand. You need people to be aware of your brand. If they don't know about your brand, how will they use your service? And you have to give them compelling reasons to use your brand, right? So the benefits you offer them, you have to connect with your target audience in a deep way, in a meaningful way, which means you have to invest in understanding your target audience. हमारे यहाँ लोग कंज्यूमर इंसाइट में या कस्टमर इंसाइट में टाइम नहीं लगाते.
बिल्कुल नहीं लगाते.
वो कहते हैं यार हमने ये ऐप बनाया, मैं इसका डिटो ऐप बनाऊंगा मगर वो येलो कलर का होगा. जैसे दराज के साथ होता है, दराज को कितने लोगों ने कॉपी करने की कोशिश की है. दराज इज दराज, नहीं उखाड़ पाए कोई भी कुछ भी आज तक. हाँ, कुछ सेगमेंट्स में कुछ कंपनियों ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है, जिसकी वजह से दराज या तो उनको जाके ख़रीद लेगा या उनके साथ कोई इन्वेस्टर बन जाएगा. You know, because they can't beat them, so they'll buy them. Just Uber tried beating Careem, they couldn't beat them, so they bought them. Right? So this is an exit for the owners as well. So those are the 3-4 things I would focus on.
Yeah, you're right. Without insights, marketing is actually a failure. Then you're not understanding.
It's just a waste of time, right? So.
Okay, so you talked about product, investing on product. Then you talked about investing on the hiring thing, and then marketing. So the second point is the hiring one, जिस पे लोग already कर रहे होते हैं. So what I've seen is कि जब भी somebody raises the funds, तो वो सबसे ज़्यादा hiring पे focus करते हैं. But again वो I feel that goes into the negative domain, क्योंकि इतना पैसा फेंकना, महंगी resources उठाना, and not sure if this is going to turn out good or bad. So hiring वाले point पे I have a doubt.
No, I'm not saying hire indiscriminately. I'm not saying waste money. I'm saying make sure you have the right resources to achieve your objectives.
Extremism पे नहीं जाना.
So there's one startup that failed last year. It was a very famous case. We won't talk about the startup, but one of the things that they did was they hired a lot of people and they scaled very fast, right? Now when they closed down, all of those people have now been trained. They know how to scale startups, they know how to grow startups, they know what not to do in the next startup. So those people eventually have either found jobs or will start their own companies, or will, make a difference somewhere. So even in failure, there is success. The only people who don't succeed in the long term are those who take no learnings from
Failures.
life. So Pakistan mein failure is a very dirty word. It's a bad word. We need to embrace failure. We need to understand that when life knocks you down, it's not a question of if life knocks you down. Life will knock you down at some point, right?
You will fail, of course.
Whenever life punches you in the face,
होता है, हाँ.
you have to get back up, right? So I think Mike Tyson का बड़ा famous कलाम था, Tyson सेठ का. उन्होंने ये कहा था कि everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. Right? So everyone goes into a boxing match knowing यार मैंने ये करना है, मैंने वो करना है. और फिर जब opponent का पहला आपको मुक्का मुंह में लगता है ना, सब भूल जाता है आदमी. Then you're just scrambling, right? That is what the startup ecosystem is doing in Pakistan right now. We have been punched in the face, and the stomach, and the kidneys. And it really is, it's a very challenging time. Startup valuations have kind of come down, they've rationalized. The rounds that are being raised are fewer than before, and the amounts are lower than before. The expectations of investors are higher than before. So startup founders have to do much more with less. The good news of this is, if you're one of those founders who survives, because not everyone will survive, many startups will stop because of lack of money.
Yes.
But if you're one of those founders who survives, if you're one of those startups that comes out of the other end of this, because this is a cycle, right? It's an economic cycle. अगर आप अगले 1-2 साल निकाल लेंगे, so when you come out on the other side, you will be the leanest, meanest, fastest, strongest version of yourself. And at that point, आप छत फाड़ के जो है ना, लड्डू खा रहे होंगे आप, because you have survived the downturn. Now conditions are good. Now conditions are better. Fundraising will start again. Funding will start happening more. Your business will be bigger. You will have a track record where you can point to VCs, and you'll be able to say, "Okay, bhai, before the downturn, I was at $5 million revenue. Now I'm at $20 million revenue. Ab baat karo." So if you can survive on less money right now, without diluting yourself, without giving away too much of your company, do it. Survive. It's going to be tough, no question about it. But if you survive, you will come out a rock star at the other end of this.
So people who are watching you and are at the initial state of their business, startups हैं, तो what do you suggest to such people कि question number 1, क्या उन्हें उस टाइम पे funds raise करने चाहिए, yes or no पे आपने आगे बताना है. Also क्या वो suggestions हैं जो आप उन्हें देंगे to scale up their businesses, because उन्हें growth के लिए क्या suggestions देंगे आप?
Yeah. So if you can survive without fundraising, that shows that you are a resilient business and you're a resilient founder. And of course, you have deep pockets. So, there are some founders who come from wealthy backgrounds or who have had an exit in the past, and they're redeploying those funds. Okay? So that's great. If you can do without money, do without money. If you can't, then raise what you need. Don't try and raise massive rounds of funding because होगा ही नहीं. और अगर let's say कि आप before the downturn your business was valued at $10 million, the reality is your business is probably valued at $5 million today, simply because everything is now valued lower. So if you were planning to raise $1 million before at a $10 million valuation, you would have had to give away 10% of the company. Now if you want to raise $1 million at a $5 million valuation, you're giving away 20% of the company. If you need $1 million, take $1 million by all means. क्योंकि equity लेके आप कबर में नहीं जा सकते, ठीक है? But if you don't need it, if you can make do with less, if you can make do with $500,000 and give away 10%, do that.
Okay. Even
if it means taking a down round, there's no ego when it comes to fundraising, right? It's a horrible process, right? You're basically on your knees in front of investors and saying, भाई खुदा के वास्ते मुझे कुछ पैसे दे दो, मेरे माँ बाप हैं, मेरे बच्चे हैं, मेरे team members हैं, मेरे टीम मेंबर्स हैं, उनके छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं, यू नो, वी वांट टू कीप गोइंग, एंड एट दैट पॉइंट you really find investors true colors. When an investor can take advantage of you because of your halat, right, or the halat, and they don't take advantage, you know that's the right partner for you in the long term. If on the other hand they say अच्छा बेटा चल, you know, छुरी कांटा निकाल के आपके सामने बैठ जाए और कहेंगे कि यार चलो पहले $5 लाख में मुझे तुम 10% दे रहे थे ना, चलो अभी निकालो 20-25% तो मैं लूँगा, राइट? मजबूरी है तो ले लें, मतलब you know.
So how to raise funds? Any tips on that?
So fundraising is a soul crushing numbers game. There are some people who get very lucky. They send out 4 or 5 pitch decks, and one of those pitch decks clicks with that investor, or they've done their research and they found this investor has invested in a company like this in India or in Indonesia or in Africa, and so we are a good fit for them, and they position the whole pitch deck towards them and all that. Very few people get that lucky.
Or their network is strong, maybe.
Or their network is strong, right? So I was coming to that. So the second one is leverage your network. This is why, you know, when I tell people to be active on LinkedIn, it's not because you're looking for a job. It's because you're building your personal brand.
True.
And your professional brand. So LinkedIn is the perfect place for that.
Absolutely.
So communicate proactively about your startup, about your achievements, about your team, about, you know, a new customer you signed. Build that brand so that investors start reaching out to you. Investors who are interested in what you're doing reach out to you. That is the definition of marketing, right? Marketing is the creation of pull. Sales is the creation of push. So जब हम CV भेजते हैं किसी को जॉब के लिए, that is sales. जब कोई potential employer आपको कॉल करता है and says, what are you doing nowadays? You have time to come talk to us? That is marketing, right? Where you build your brand to the point where people call you, not the other way around.
So only attracting employers if on LinkedIn pay, but we can attract investors also. People don't think that way.
Right. So with some of the startups that I work with, I encourage them to actually boost the post in Silicon Valley, right? So boost the post in San Francisco, and they're like, but यार उसमें तो पैसे लगते हैं $100, $200. मैंने कहा भाई, 90% of the world's venture capital funding is in and around that area. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment is sitting in that area, or is influenced by people who work in that area or live in that area. So if you spend $100 and it pays off, that's the best $100 you'll ever invest in your life. Even if you spend $10,000 doing that, that's a good investment, right? So, you know, I'd say do some promotion on the West Coast, East Coast, London, Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. Like, these are centers of VC around the world. Promote yourself in them. Why not? अगर आप उनकी फीड में आना शुरू होंगे on a regular basis, people will say, यार ये कौन है, ये कौन सा startup है यार? What do they do? Why are they in my feed? And so that's how conversations start.
That's smart.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, use your own circle, right? So especially when it comes to early stage angel investments, talk to people in your circle. And यहाँ पे जो बात होती है कि यार हिचकिचाहट है, नहीं यार मामू से मैं कैसे बात करूँ, अबे भाई पैसे रेस कर रहे हो, अपनी हिचकिचाहट को निकालो साइड पे और आग लगा दो.
इन्वेस्टर से वैसे बात करनी है किसी बाहर
नहीं, वो फैमिली से लोगों की जो है ना ज़रा ज़्यादा वो होती है कि यार मैं, वो कहेंगे यार मुझसे पैसे मांगने आ गए भाई. हाँ सबसे पैसे मांग रहा हूँ यार, पड़ोसी से भी जाके पैसे मांग लो कि जी ये मेरा बिजनेस है, मैं आपको इसमें शेयर दे रहा हूँ. और बाय द वे, स्टार्टअप इन्वेस्टमेंट इज़ द मोस्ट हलाल फॉर्म ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट इन द वर्ल्ड इन माई व्यू. The person who is investing with you is taking a risk, right? They're giving you money which they may never see back. इससे ज़्यादा हलाल क्या होता है? ना आप इसमें कोई गारंटीड रिटर्न है, ना इसमें कोई सूद का कॉन्सेप्ट है. आपको ओनरशिप मिल रही है कंपनी के अंदर 5%, 10%, 20%, जो भी है, एंड यू आर वर्किंग विद देम टू मेक इट सक्सेसफुल. इससे ज़्यादा हलाल काम क्या है? मगर हमारी कम्युनिटीज़ में ये बात अभी तक लोगों को समझ में नहीं आई. अब आ रही है आहिस्ता आहिस्ता, बिकॉज नाउ यू आर सीइंग family offices, high net worth individuals, they're kind of, you know, testing the water a little bit with their toes and saying, अच्छा यार इसमें पानी का नमी तो अच्छी है मगर नमकीन ज़्यादा है, you know. But होगा, और जैसे जैसे लोकल VC फर्म्स बढ़ते जाएंगे और पैसे इस फील्ड में आना शुरू हो जाएंगे, this will become a more common investment class. So is it risky? Yes. Is it for everyone? No. But there are some people who should have some of their investments in venture capital class assets. And that's why, and you know, you cannot be hesitant about talking to people. ये हम फाउंडर्स का मजाक उड़ाते हैं और यहाँ पे अभी भी हमारी एक दो फाउंडर से बात हो रही थी. You have to be ready to pitch in your sleep. रात को 3 बजे अगर आपका फ़ोन बजे, because somebody in the US doesn't know what time zone you're in, you have to be able to wake up and without opening your eyes, you should be able to pitch. And the guy says, okay, you sound asleep. Yes, I'm asleep, but I'm also awake. Because, you know, that's just the reality of pitching. There are stories of people who have pitched to 500 investors and then finally one person has given them money and that has changed their life. There very big companies around the world were built on that kind of hard work. क्योंकि एक इन्वेस्टर को अगर आपका प्रोपोजिशन समझ में आ गया तो आपको पैसे मिल जाएंगे. And that money is enough to get you to the next stage. And when you get to the next stage, all of a sudden people go, "Hey, ये क्या हुआ?" And also when you announce that $1 million you raised or whatever from one investor, people go, "Hey, इनको क्या समझ में आया जो मुझे नहीं समझ में आया था." फिर वही लोग आपको कॉल कर रहे होंगे और कहने लगे, "यार तुमने मुझे फॉलो अप नहीं किया." अबे भाई तुझे 4 दफ़ा पिच डेक भेजा था, मतलब क्या करूँ, नाच करूँ तुम्हारी बिल्डिंग के बाहर आके. अब आपको फोमो हो रहा है कि यार वो
कोई और ले गया,
मेरे बगैर राउंड क्लोज हो गया. लोग फिर आपको, यार कैन यू ऐड मी टू द राउंड, कैन यू ऐड मी टू द राउंड, $2 लाख मेरे ले लो. अरे भाई जब मैं तुमसे $2 लाख मांग रहा था तो तुम दुनिया घूम रहे थे. नहीं यार, आई एम बिजी, आई एम इन लाहौर, आई एम इन इस्लामाबाद, आई एम गोइंग टू दुबई, आई एम ऑन अ प्लेन, सी आई एम इन एन एयरपोर्ट. आप फर्स्ट क्लास लाउंज की तस्वीर भेज रहे हैं एक स्टार्टअप इन्वेस्टर को जो कभी सोच नहीं सकता कि मैं फर्स्ट क्लास लाउंज में कभी जाके बैठूं. ये आपको लिंक्डइन में बहुत मिलेगा, लोग सेल्फीज ले रहे होते हैं फर्स्ट बिजनेस क्लास के अंदर या फर्स्ट क्लास के अंदर. Dude, you're an investor. We get it. You have money. That's great. I'm happy for you. Don't show that to your startups जो आपके इर्द गिर्द रुल रहे हैं कि यार भाई मुझे कुछ पैसे दे दे यार, मेरी कंपनी बंद होने वाली है. People are oblivious. They don't realize or they don't care one way or the other, you know. So
these were some really, really good tips for startups and people who are raising funds. I'll go back to your journey of marketing क्योंकि उस पर भी मुझे टिप्स चाहिए. बट टिप्स से पहले मेरा सवाल ये होता है, लॉट ऑफ टाइम जो मेरे इंटरव्यूज होते हैं गलतियों पे बात करते हैं क्योंकि मुझे बड़ा मजा आता है उस पर बात करके. एंड इफ यू आर आई एम श्योर यू बी कंफर्टेबल इनफ टू टॉक अबाउट इट. स्पेसिफिकली बताएं कौन सी गलतियां याद हैं, यार इससे मैंने बहुत सीखा फ्रॉम योर मार्केटिंग जर्नी.
Oh God, so many. So Careem में Careem का जो brand था वो it was a very in your face kind of brand, right? Very cheeky brand, and we had a very empowered team and everyone was just basically authorized to do pretty much anything.
Work culture was amazing, I think.
So एक सुबह में उठा and the first thing you got used to doing at Careem was when you woke up, the first thing you did was check your notifications, right? And you see 75 or 100 notifications, you know कि कुछ हो गया रात को.
अच्छा.
तो वही हुआ था, पाकिस्तान lost a match, क्रिकेट मैच, और हमारे सोशल मीडिया के बच्चे ने समझा कि बहुत फ़नी होगा कि हम अपने कप्तान को बोलें कि यार कप्तान साहब डोंट बी सैड, करीम में तो हम कप्तानों को बहुत इज्जत देते हैं, तो आपके लिए हमने एक जॉब फिक्स की हुई है जब आप पाकिस्तान वापस आएंगे. And they thought that was very funny and it was. By the time I woke up, we had 500 tweets with delete Careem. And I'm like, oh God.
Achha,
so वो एक केस था
the kid was empowered enough to do whatever you wanted to.
Yeah, they had control of the handle and they could log in and do whatever. Right? So anyway, उसके लिए फिर हमने माफ़ी मांगी. Literally घुटनों पे जाके गलती हो गई. It was not a very funny joke and we apologize and we have huge respect for the captain and for the whole team. और फिर हमने कब we basically apologized on our hands and knees. तो हम हर महीने किसी ना किसी बात पे apologize करते हैं.
But that wasn't your mistake.
But no, but as head of marketing you're responsible. You can't pass the buck like that. If somebody in your team does a bongi, it's on you. It's not their fault, it's your fault.
but I'm saying see वो गलतियां जिनसे आपने कुछ सीखा हो, क्योंकि आपने उससे सीखना, तो आपने कुछ चेंज तो नहीं किया
So
ना?
okay, second नहीं चेंज तो किया, फिर
क्या
उसके
change?
बाद we put in some checks and balances
Okay,
कि
okay, okay. इतना भी empowerment अच्छी नहीं है.
no
ठीक
no
है.
tweets
हाँ.
without running them through at least the head of social media, stuff like that.
Okay.
The second case again at Kareem was we did a campaign for bikes in Lahore, and we had 4 or 5 sort of pushing the envelope creatives. One of them was, you remember that Indian pilot?
Abhinandan?
Yeah.
Abhinandan.
Right?
Okay.
So we had his muchi on a billboard, and we said कि अगर आप गलती से border के गलत side पे गिर जाएं तो करीम बाइक बुलाएं और border तक वापस पहुंच जाएं. Stuff like that.
Okay.
One of them was a picture of a bride on a motorcycle.
Okay.
And the tagline was, अगर आपको अपनी शादी से भागना हो तो करीम बाइक बुलाएं. अच्छा, मज़े की बात यह है कि अगर हम वहाँ पे दुल्हा दिखाते दुल्हन के बजाय, किसी को कोई इतराज़ नहीं होता. They would have found it very funny. But because it was a woman and because it was Lahore, they took it really personally. We had to remove the whole campaign within 8 hours. And it was on like 40 billboards across Punjab. So पूरे पंजाब से उतारना पड़ा और major backlash हुआ था. और honestly, I did not think that we would get backlash on that. I thought we might hear from the Fauj कि यार ये क्या अभिनंदन का मजाक उड़ाया हुआ है. And I actually did get a call from someone very senior in the Fauj, and they congratulated me. They said, this is really funny. We are all having a good laugh about it. Keep up the good work.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, Fauj has a sense of humor, right?
और वो दुल्हन वाले पे
लोगों को बहुत बुरा लग गया. तो उसके बाद we had to issue a statement saying, look, we are not trying to encourage women from running away from their weddings, but we do have a societal problem of forced marriages in this country, right? Young girls, young women are, not always, but there are cases where people are being forced into marriage at a very young age. And that is not right. That is a discussion we need to have. So yeah, the learning for me was, when you're pushing the envelope, then you've got to be careful because you don't know which envelope is going to tear at what time, right? If I go back to pharma days, there was one of our cough and cold ingredients was the raw material for the preparation of crystal meth in the US. Okay. So in 2005, 2006, the Food and Drug Administration in the US decided to ban that ingredient or to move all products containing that behind the counter. So you couldn't buy it yourself. You had to go to a pharmacist and buy it with a prescription. Okay. And when that happens, the product dies because nobody wants to stand in line and wait for a stupid cough and cold medicine, right? And we were able to come up with a very smart commercial solution to that after spending 2 days in a conference room as a team of 30 people just trying to brainstorm. And what I learned from that was that any problem can be solved with collaboration. If you have the right team, if you have the right people and the right motivation, that was $100 million brand. If it had gone behind the counter, it would have become a $5 million brand or 10. मतलब वाट लग जाती. But we were able to come up with a commercial solution and implement it within 3 months. So actually during that cough and cold season, we were the only brand that was available over the counter. All the other brands were put behind the counter. So our sales went up like 40-50% versus a year ago. And everyone in the company was like, wow, how did this? And our competitors were like, wow, I wish we thought of this because, pharmaceuticals mein lead times बहुत लंबे होते हैं. You can't make changes overnight. Like took us 3-4 months to do it, but we were able to do it very quickly. So, one thing I would encourage people to think about is the people that you work for, the companies that you choose to work at. You should be mindful of that. हमारे यहाँ unfortunately, for whatever reason, अगर आप किसी को 5,000 रुपये ज़्यादा ऑफ़र करें ना, वो जॉब स्विच कर जाते हैं. Even if they're working at a great company right now, making 60,000 rupees, and you offer them 70,000 rupees, they'll jump.
They will.
And maybe they'll jump to a shitty company or an unknown company that has no potential and is not going anywhere. But because you're getting paid 10,000 rupees more, you will go, right? My advice to all young people is, especially in the first 10 years of your life, really focus on not only the company you're working at. Yeah, it's great to work for Unilever or P&G if you want, if you like that sort of thing. Work for but know who your manager is going to be. Because you're, at the end of the day, you're working for a person. You're not working for a company. If that person believes in you, if that person helps you to grow and learn and develop and become, the best version of yourself, even a crappy company can be an amazing experience because your personal journey.
To do it, na? कैसे कर सकते हैं?
नहीं, क्यों?
How can you know who's going to like lead? We ज़्यादा क्या नाम पता चल जाएगा, designation पता चल जाएगी.
आप उनको कॉल करें भाई. क्या मतलब? You tell HR that I want to speak to my manager before I accept the offer. But why not?
But in one meeting you won't be able to judge.
No, but you can then, once you talk to that person, I'll tell you something. Sometimes you meet someone and you go, ये बंदा पागल है. ये आपके साथ कभी नहीं हुआ है? आपको कभी
होता है.
हाँ, आपके पास.
There are times when you judge very quickly, but there are times.
So then you say, sir. So then you go on their LinkedIn and you see who are their connections, who are the people they've worked with, and you call them. And in developed markets, there's an amazing website called Glassdoor, where people actually go and leave actual comments about the company, the person, the hiring process, the HR, everything is available. पाकिस्तान में इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है, अभी तक वो इतना पॉपुलर नहीं हुआ है, but you know exactly who you're working for if you're willing to do the due diligence.
And the people whom he or she have worked with, the ex-teammates, maybe can tell better.
They will tell you, and especially if that person is not nice. If they are a very, very problematic, and there are lots of problematic people everywhere. It's not just Pakistan, everywhere. पाकिस्तान में थोड़ा ज़्यादा होता है क्योंकि abuse of power is a terrible thing. और हमारे यहाँ हर बंदा फिरौन बन जाता है. जैसे ही आप एक लेवल पे पहुँचते हैं, आपकी फिरौनियत के पर जो है ना निकलना शुरू हो जाते हैं. तो अब भाई अगर आप फिरौन हैं तो आपके नीचे जो बेचारे काम कर रहे हैं उनको पता नहीं है कि आप फिरौन हैं. आपके बिहेवियर से सबको पता चल जाता है. And if you call one person, they might hang up on you. But if they hang up on you, that's something as well. That's a message. Okay, this guy is so bad, I will not talk about him. And you will find one person who has left the company and will tell you, Khuda ka khauf karo, don't ever join this, don't ever work for this company because of X, Y, and Z. Now, you could still join the company, but now at least you know. So there's no surprises. It's not like you join on the second day, you're like, oh my God, I'm dead. What am I doing here? I have to leave. Right? Second thing I say is that you are responsible for your own development. I have interviewed hundreds of people in the last 5 years in Pakistan alone.
Okay.
I've interviewed a lot of young people who come to me after 3 months on a job, 6 months on a job, and they say कि यार मेरी growth रुक गई है. मैंने कहा क्या मतलब भाई? You've joined as an assistant manager. आपको क्या चाहिए? You want to become a director in 3 months? What do you want? नहीं वो मेरी development. What they are actually saying is मेरी designation change नहीं हुई है और मेरे पैसे नहीं बढ़े. मैंने कहा अच्छा भाई तो आप क्या चाहते हैं कि हर 3 महीने पे आपके पैसे बढ़ाए जाएं? What is wrong with you? Have you learned? Yes, I've learned everything in this job that I can learn. Really? In 3 months, you have learned everything that you can about. Really? Okay, let me ask you this. Oh no, not that. What about this? No, not that. So you haven't learned everything. Yeah, maybe not. But I've learned what I want to from this place. Now I want to go some. अरे भाई. So मुझे ये गारंटी पता है कि ये बंदा जब मुझसे मेरे पास आएगा 5,000 रुपये ज़्यादा में 3 महीने के बाद 5,000 रुपये ज़्यादा में कहीं और चला जाएगा. And you meet people who've changed jobs 8 times in 3 years. Like, dude, what are you doing? Freelancer बन जाओ भाई. It's better for you. At least you can say कि मैं पिछले 5 साल से freelancing कर रहा हूँ या कर रही हूँ. And I've worked with 10 clients. But ये क्या job change, provident fund, you know, फलाना ढिमकाना हर 3 महीने पे job hopping. This is not how you build your brand. At least not in my view. I might be old-fashioned.
That's a damage to the CV.
I mean, it's problematic, right? Because at some point, you will want to become a manager. If your whole life you want to be an intern and you just want to keep rotating, then fine, be an intern. And you'll find 200 companies will hire you as an intern for the rest of your life. But then you'll be a 50-year-old intern. At some point, you want to be a manager, you want to be a senior manager, you want to be a director, you want to be a, maybe you want to do your own startup. How will you learn those skills? So Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, he says the first 10 years of your life, just figure out who you want to work for or work with. Learn from them. The next 10 years of your life, figure out what you want to do. And then he actually says you should start your business at 40, not at 20. Because even in my experience, some of the best founders we've had are people who are coming to a startup after working in industry for 10, 15 years because they have identified a real gap. They've identified a problem which they want to solve because they were facing that problem in their last job or in the job before that. Bacche jo aate hain, they're very excited. Oh yeah, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, baby. I'm going to be, this is so cool. And then they find out a month later it's not cool because you're working 24 hours a day. There is no sleep. It's all on you. You have to find the money. You have to pay salaries. You have responsibilities. It's not cool. There's nothing cool about it until you get to like a Series C fundraise of $200 million and then, you have a company worth $1 billion and now you have some shashkas and all that going on. That's fine. But at the beginning, a startup is, oh my God, it's 5 times more work than a job. Because job पे आप 10 बजे आते हैं, कराची में तो 10:30 बजे आते हैं, 11 बजे आते हैं और 5-6 बजे उड़ जाते हैं, बीच में नमाज के लिए भी उठते हैं, लंच भी करते हैं, असर भी पढ़ते हैं, चाय भी पीते हैं, सुट्टा भी लगाते हैं, कभी कभार जाके नीचे वीड भी पी के आ जाते हैं. Try doing that on your own job. Try doing that on your own startup. तो फिर आपकी हरकतें जो दूसरे कर रहे होंगे ना, आपको जहर लगेंगी. ये क्या कर रहा है यार, इसको मैं पैसे दे रहा हूँ भाई, इसलिए मैं पैसे दे रहा हूँ कि नीचे जाके चाय सुट्टा लगा के आ रहा है लड़कियों के साथ, ये इसलिए मैं पैसे देता हूँ इसको. दिन में अगर 3 घंटे काम कर लिया तो बॉस आज बहुत मेहनत, टिक्के तो मंगवाए, पिज्ज़ा तो मंगवाए. ये तो शाम को 4 बजे काम शुरू हुआ है, 8 बजे यार पिज्ज़ा तो मंगवा ले बॉस, बड़ी मेहनत हो रही है आज. तो बॉस वो भी निकाल रहा होता है, राइट. सो startup life is not for everyone. People are very enamored with this idea of starting a company, starting a startup, but it's a lot of work. If you're not up for that, if you're not really passionate about what you're doing, don't do it. Go work for somebody else. So this is a question I also teach, right? So whenever I meet students, I ask them this question, okay, what is your purpose in life? Why do you exist? Why are you here? And they're like, what do you mean? Most people have one answer, I'm here to make money. Really, that's your purpose? What people don't realize is that money is a byproduct of things you do.
Yes.
It is not an objective. It should never be an objective. It can't be an objective, right? If money is your objective,
you'll be bored.
No, well, you need to go work in a bank, right? Or you work in investment banking, or you do something like that really gets you the money, and by the age of 35 you're done for life. You've made your $10 million, $15-20 million and you retire. फिर आप झक मारें, जाके अपना आइलैंड खरीद लें और अपने आइलैंड पे अपना गोल्फ कोर्स बनाएं और उसी पे गोल्फ खेलें. Right? There are people who do that. They exit the world at 40 and they retire. एक छक्के मारने की जरूरत है ना. $10 million is enough. अगर आप $10 million को सूद पे लगा दें तो कुछ नहीं तो $5 लाख आपको साल के वैसे ही मिल जाएंगे, सिर्फ सूद पे. $5 लाख से आप ज़िंदगी नहीं गुजार सकते क्या आप सालाना? $40,000 महीने का. पाकिस्तान जैसी जगह में तो आप अयाशी कर सकते हैं भाई. $40,000 में तो you can live like, a king.
But money is not the only satisfaction.
No, but
there are different people.
This is what I'm saying, right? So you need to know why you exist. What is your purpose? If you exist for money, that I would say do that. Know that about yourself. मुझे पैसे चाहिए और मुझे कुछ भी नहीं चाहिए. पैसे से मैं सब कुछ ले लूँगा. ठीक है भाई, go do that. But if you want to do something else with your life, if you have a purpose, you want to help people, you want to impact, you want to improve the situation of the gharib awam of Pakistan, then do that. Money will come. Money is a byproduct of you doing things.
You do quality work, this will happen eventually.
Solve problems. Solve big problems. You will make money. But you will also make your akhirah.
True.
right?
That's an amazing thing. I would want some specific tips from your marketing experience to the young marketers.
Wow. Okay. So I have gotten into this habit of ranting about the kind of marketing that we see in Pakistan because there are some characteristics of that marketing that make me crazy. Right?
Okay.
So my request, my humble request to all marketers, young, old, doesn't matter. Be courageous. Have the guts to develop marketing and communication that actually says something. The problem is that in Pakistan, most marketing decisions are taken by committee, right? There's a Seth, there's his advisors, sometimes his wife, just random people, someone walking by the door, the whole marketing organization, the whole sales organization, sometimes the head of finance. Everyone thinks that they are authorized to give comments on marketing.
This happens.
And the reality is most of them don't know jack about marketing. They just know कि यार इसमें ये लड़की बड़ी खूबसूरत है, ये इसमें जो है ना ये लड़का
कलर
गधा
अच्छा
है,
नहीं लग रहा, ये यहाँ पे
हाँ ये इसने पिंक शर्ट क्यों पहनी हुई है, आपको इसको ब्रांड कलर में ब्लू शर्ट पहनानी चाहिए थी. अबे खुदा का खौफ करो यार ये जो लोगो आपने कोने में लगाया हुआ ना इसको बड़ा कर दें ताकि लोगो दिखे तो सही. ए भाई
चश्मा लगा.
story कहाँ है? What is it that you're trying to establish about the brand, right? So connected to that is the second point, which is be strategic when it comes to brand building. Don't take shortcuts. Shortcuts never work. Brands are not built in a day. Brands are built over time. They have architectures. You have to design a brand and then you have to execute against that brand. It's like having a blueprint for a house that is designed by an architect. And then you have a contractor who works with the architect to build the house. And then you invite people to come and see the house. That is how you do brand identity and communication. बट हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है, सेठ सुबह उठता है बोलता है यार ये ऐड इस तरह बनाना है और इसमें ये वाली मॉडल हो जाए ना, ये वाली एक्ट्रेस होनी चाहिए. अरे भाई क्या मतलब है? नहीं भाई यही हो, ये दिस इज परफेक्ट. मैं एंड वही होता है
जो सेठ चाहता है
बिकॉज सेठ ने पैसे देने ना. So that would be my second piece of advice is be strategic.
That's about company's culture. I mean,
no, that's about Pakistan culture, not company's culture.
You can't control people.
Yeah, you can. You can have the guts to be able to stand up to the Seth and say कि जी देखें ये जो आप propose कर रहे हैं, this does not do justice to the brand, and that means you have to educate the Seth.
Half of the energy goes there.
Not half, 90%. Managing upwards. Because you know what, 2 करोड़ रुपए 4 करोड़ रुपए अगर कोई खर्च कर रहा है एक ad के ऊपर, so they want to see what they want to see, and then they want their circle of friends to call them and say वाह वाह सेठ साहब क्या ad बना है, तुसी great हो जी, तुसी great हो, बस क्या ad बना है. तो ad agencies क्या करती हैं जब नया ad बनता है ना, they make sure कि उन channels पे चले जहाँ पे सेठ या उनकी फैमिली देखती हो, या बिलबोर्ड उनके घर के बाहर वाला जो है ना वो लगना चाहिए. Or every billboard from their house to the office should have their ad campaign running on it. ताकि उनको दिखे कि ad चल रहा है, वरना वो कहेंगे कि यार भाई वो ad तो मुझे दिखा ही नहीं. कहाँ है ad? कौन सा ad? कहाँ चलाया आपने? मैंने तो नहीं देखा. अब मैंने नहीं देखा तो चला ही नहीं हुआ होगा. अब आप उनको समझाते रहे भैया आप टारगेट ऑडियंस नहीं हैं. अगर आपको ad दिख रहा है there's something wrong. You should not be seeing this ad. But again, unprofessionalism, right? The third thing I would say is be ROI focused. Be ready to acknowledge when a particular campaign is not working. Make it consumer centric. Focus on solving a consumer's problem, connecting with the consumer at an emotional level. If you're not, most of our ads are functional, right? दांत ब्रश करो सफ़ेद हो जाएंगे. ज़्यादा क्या दिखा देंगे कि जी मेरे दांतों में जो मेरे मुंह से जो मिठास है वो जब मैं एक लड़की के सामने एलिवेटर में खड़ा होऊंगा तो वो लड़की यूं नहीं करेगी because I don't have bad breath, right? That's the extent of the emotional connect. There are some brands that are doing a really good job in connecting with their consumers, but they are far and few between, and unfortunately the majority of them are just spending money.
But there are times when people remember the ad but forget the brand.
Of course.
because of that emotional story, they got so emotionally connected with that brand, that ad कि वो भूल जाते कि ad किस चीज़ का था.
सो ब्रांड रेलेवेंस अगर नहीं है, सो वो होता क्या है कि एक एड एजेंसी बहुत अच्छा कॉन्सेप्ट बनाती है, फिर वो 6 क्लाइंट्स को जाके बेच देती है. जिसने पहले पैसे दे दिए वो ऐड उसके ऊपर ठोक दिया. एंड बाय डेफिनेशन इफ एन ऐड वर्क्स व्हेन यू टेक आउट योर ब्रांड एंड रिप्लेस इट विद अनदर ब्रांड, दैट इज अ BS ad. An ad needs to be so tailored to the brand that if you remove that brand and try to put another brand in that, the ad will not work. People will say नहीं ये झूठ बोल रहे हैं, ये इस product का ad है ही नहीं.
Okay.
That is the goal, right? You create a brand identity that's so clear and so ownable that no one else could possibly own it. For example, I'll take an example of surf. दाग अच्छे, right? गंध अच्छी होती है, दाग अच्छे होते हैं. कोई और ब्रांड इसको ओन कर सकता है. अब ठीक है, आप ये कह सकते हैं कि जो सर्फ एक्सेल का जो ग्लोबल ब्रांड वर्क हुआ है, द ब्रांड आर्किटेक्चर दे बिल्ट वाज फिनोमिनल. They followed a very scientific process. They took an insight from the category and flipped it on its head. That's called turning the tables. Take the weakness of the strategy of the category and convert it into a strength. But who has the guts to do that in Pakistan? कोई आप लोकल ब्रांड सोच सकती है कि जाके बोलेगा जी दाग तो अच्छे होते हैं, क्योंकि दिमाग ख़राब है. सेठ ही आपको बोलेगा मुंह पे कि दिमाग ख़राब है, हम तो जी सफ़ेदी बेच रहे हैं, हम नहीं, हमारे 3 नस्लों से आबा अजदाद से हम सफ़ेदी बेच रहे हैं. Why do you not hear the names of Robin Blue and all these brands? Robin Blue Neil was a category by itself. Hardly exists anymore because didn't innovate, didn't do anything creative. Shoe polish क्यों ख़त्म हो गई भाई? क्या जूते पहनने छोड़ दिए लोगों ने? नहीं, पॉलिश करना छोड़ दिया. ज़्यादा हम मोची के पास चले जाएंगे या जूते भिजवा देंगे मोची के पास. मोची बफ करके आपको हफ्ते में एक दफ़ा एक काला जूता, एक ब्राउन जूता, वो भी मेरे जनरेशन के लोग, यंग लोग तो वो जूते पहनते ही नहीं है, राइट? सो विदाउट इनोवेशन अगेन, लास्ट पीस ऑफ एडवाइस फॉर यंग मार्केटर्स, डोंट बी अफ्रेड टू इनोवेट. यू हैव टू ट्राई न्यू स्टफ. If everything you're doing is safe and within the boundaries, how will you ever know where your boundaries go? You have to push the envelope. You have to push yourself, your boundaries, your personal boundaries, your professional boundaries, not being stupid about it, but pushing the envelope of a brand.
But also the communication needs to be consistent. The message needs to be consistent. Otherwise,
but if you don't have a brand identity, how do you know what to communicate? आप किस बेसिस पे?
That's what initial stage then.
Right?
Yes.
So अगर आपने ब्रांड आर्किटेक्चर बनाया ही नहीं है, तो क्या खाक आप कम्युनिकेशन करेंगे? एक दिन आके बोलेगा बंदा, यार ये मेरा ख्याल है ये ब्रांड जो है ना मिठास पे जाना चाहिए. सेट बोलेगा वाह क्या बात है आपकी. फिर वो ब्रांड मैनेजर कहीं और मूव हो जाएगा क्योंकि उसने वो एक नया एड कैंपेन बना के उसको बुलेट पॉइंट मिल गया CV पे कि जी आई लॉन्च अ न्यू कैंपेन, रीडिड द पैकेजिंग एंड माय मार्केट शेयर वेंट अप बाय 2%. ठीक है, वो उसको सीनियर ब्रांड मैनेजर की जॉब मिल गई. दूसरी जगह पे एक नया बंदा आया, बोलता है सर वो जो मिठास वाली बात थी ना वो घिस-पिट गई है, अब ऐसा करते हैं कि अब हम लेट्स गो ऑन क्रिस्पीनेस. सेठ बोलता है वाह क्या बात की है, क्रिस्पीनेस पे चले जाते हैं. फिर तीसरा बंदा आएगा, वो बोलेगा सर इसको हम ऐसा करते हैं कि मलेशिया में जाके शूट करते हैं क्योंकि कराची के बीचेस आर नॉट दैट ग्रेट, मलेशिया बीचेस वेरी नाइस. तो बेचने वाले तो हर जगह, और बंदा अपने आप को भी बेच रहा है, ब्रांड को भी बेच रहा है, सेठ को भी बेच रहा है. मतलब if there's no consistency, what is this brand that you're building? It's going to be like a hydra, right? Multiple heads going in different directions, meaningless.
The team keeps on changing, banda keeps on changing, then eventually marketing message keeps on changing. ये हो जाता है.
Not eventually, every year, every second year. यही तो मसला है. So the best brands in Pakistan are brands like Super, right? Which for 20 years has been half the biscuit category in Pakistan. कोई कुछ नहीं उखाड़ सका. But so I used to work with a small company in Lahore. They were the originators of Mayfair Bubble, right? It's a company called Asian Foods. And उनका जो boss था, their head of marketing or chief operating officer, I forget what his title was, Ali Shirazi. He was my boss at Reckitt in 1993.
Okay.
So when I became a consultant in 2010, he was my first client. And he said कि मुझे, I want to attack Super. I want to break this brand. I said, भाई कैसे? मतलब in the last 10 years, between 2000 and 2010, I think 6 companies tried to attack Super head on. And all of them failed. They all made an anda and doodh wala biscuit.
Okay.
Exactly like super, tasted like super, and they tried to position it as Me Too Super.
Okay.
And they all failed.
Okay.
तो मैंने कहा देखिए let's not do that because it's just going to be a waste of money. So we did a lot of research, right? So we created I think 10-15 different biscuits.
Okay.
किसी में हमने ऑरेंज पील डाला, किसी में हमने सिनेमन डाला, किसी के अंदर इलायची डाली, किसी के अंदर चॉकलेट डाली, किसी के अंदर कुछ डाला. And we put all of those biscuits into in-home placement tests. 100 घरों के पैनल्स हमने कोई 2000 घरों में 10-15 डिफरेंट बिस्किट्स बांट दिए.
ठीक है.
एंड देन वी वेंट टू आस्क पीपल कि आपका रिस्पांस क्या है.
सही है.
तो एक बिस्किट बड़ा उठ के आया, वो इलायची वाला था.
ओके.
तो हमने कहा अच्छा, वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग पोटेंशियल. प्लस हमें जब हमने रिसर्च की सुपर के बारे में तो हर बंदा बोले यार सुपर से बेहतर तो कोई है ही नहीं. सुपर से ऊपर क्या होता है? कुछ भी नहीं होता है. बट व्हेन यू डिग डाउन, हाँ यार कभी कभार सुपर टूटा हुआ निकलता है, कभी काला निकलता है, कभी पीला निकलता है, यू नो, स्लाइटली ओवर बेक्ड और अंडर बेक्ड.
हाँ, टूट जाते हैं.
मेहमान आते हैं तो मुझे 2 पैकेट खोलने पड़ते हैं ताकि, क्योंकि मैं टूटे हुए बिस्किट तो मेहमान को नहीं सर्व कर सकती, तो मैं 2, मगर वो ज़ाया नहीं होते, वो बच्चे खा जाते हैं. राइट, सो नो कंप्लेंट्स. बट वी सेड ओके फाइन, नाउ वी हैव सम फंक्शनल थिंग्स टू लुक एट. मगर सुपर से ऊपर क्या होता है? तो फिर हमने कहा कि यार जब हमारे कल्चर में जब आप किसी डिश को स्पेशल बनाना चाहते हैं तो आप उसमें इलायची डाल देते हैं. राइट, बिरयानी में इलायची हो जाए, खीर में इलायची हो जाए, चाय में इलायची हो जाए, वो स्पेशल हो जाती है. उसको स्पेशल चाय बोलते हैं या स्पेशल कड़क बोलते हैं. राइट, अच्छा, तो ये एक इनसाइट निकल रही है. राइट, तो दिस इज अ पीरियड ऑफ 6 months दैट्स गोइंग ऑन, दिस रिसर्च इज गोइंग ऑन. एंड देन इसे नाम क्या ले? तो हमने कहा स्पेशल. स्पेशल सुपर से ऊपर स्पेशल होता है. तो फिर हमने पैकेजिंग बनाई, स्पेशल के नाम से उस प्रोडक्ट को लॉन्च किया. एंड इन 10 months वी डिड 1 billion rupees ऑफ सेल्स.
ओके.
1 अरब रुपए, ये 2010-11 की बात है. 1 अरब रुपए. एंड यू नो यू हैव सक्सीडेड व्हेन द मार्केट लीडर विच इज सुपर launches their own variant against you. So they launched super with इलायची 10 months later or a year later.
Okay.
और जिस दिन मैंने वो ऐड देखा ना बिलबोर्ड कारसाज के ऊपर, super with इलायची, मैंने कहा yes, fist bump, right? Because you know that you have heard them. Your 1 billion did not come from nowhere. It came from partly at least from super. So
what happened to that brand?
So unfortunately the CEO Ali Shirazi moved to Canada.
Okay.
And the new person who came in, he cut costs, reduced the real इलायची, put in इलायची flavor, made the biscuit thinner, started breaking. और वो 1 billion से वो 250 million पे ले आए 1 साल के अंदर. और इस कंपनी के लिए this was the first billion rupee brand that I built for them. And it was amazing. Like a 1 billion rupee brand in a year in sales in Pakistan in 2010. That was an amazing thing. The point is, if you have this need, this curiosity to understand where the problems and opportunities lie, if you have consumer insight, you can, that is a source of competitive advantage. Second brand we built for them was, they also had toffees, right? तो इनके पास एक अमरूद टॉफ़ी थी, एक बनाना टॉफ़ी थी, एक स्ट्रॉबेरी टॉफ़ी थी. सबके नाम यही थे, गुआवा, स्ट्रॉबेरी, बनाना, मेलन, ऑरेंज, यू नो, दिस वाज द नेम. एंड ईच वन वाज अबाउट 10 करोड़ रुपए की सेल. 100 million, 100 million, 100 million. अब आप अगर आप ऑरेंज टॉफ़ी का ऐड चलाते हैं तो बाकी नहीं बिकते. सो आई क्रिएटेड अ मास्टर ब्रांड कॉल्ड फ्रूटो, which was available as a trademark within the toffee category.
Okay.
And we said Fruto guava, Fruto banana, Fruto orange, Fruto this. So we started making ads for Fruto. And again, when you combined all of this, the master brand Fruto had sales of over 1 billion rupees. Right? So for one small company, this was when I started working with them, they were a 2.5-3 billion rupee company. In 3 years, they were a 6 billion rupee company. कहने का मकसद ये कि अगेन इफ़ यू हैव इनसाइट एंड इफ़ यू हैव द एबिलिटी टू डिग डीप एंड थिंक स्ट्रेटेजिकली एंड फिगर आउट व्हाट यू नो हाउ ब्रांड्स आर बिल्ट एंड हाउ ब्रांड आर्किटेक्चर इज बिल्ट, एनीथिंग इज पॉसिबल. बट हमारे यहाँ क्या है? अच्छा, बाय द वे, वी हैड द सपोर्ट ऑफ द सेठ.
Okay.
right? Because he understood what we were trying to do, and we had the support of the CEO, Alicia
you had
Razi.
to convince them?
We had to convince nobody. They got it,
Okay.
right? They got it. And they were willing to put in the time and the energy, because you can't build brands overnight. So we did that. Sales doubled in 3 years. And, a biscuit category is extremely competitive. टॉफ़ी कैटेगरी में पैसा कमाना नामुमकिन बात है. वो गोली उसको बोलते हैं, और उस पर अगर आपके 2 पैसे बन जाएं एक गोली के ऊपर, बड़ी बात है. बिकॉज बच्चे ज़्यादा खाते हैं, और बच्चे आर वेरी वेरी प्राइस सेंसिटिव, राइट. उस ज़माने में 8 आने की गोली होती थी. अब तो खैर वो 2 रुपए की, 2 रुपए भी, और कुछ 5 रुपए पे चले गए हैं एक गोली के लिए, जो बड़ी वाली होती है. सो आई वुड ऑलवेज इनकरेज मार्केटर्स to go deep into their categories. Superficial काम मत करें, गहराई में जाएं. Consumer, when I was working on Cherry Blossom, I sat with maybe 500 mochis across Karachi. I knew where every mochi in Karachi was at that point. I had mapped them. ज़माने में technology तो थी नहीं. I had a big map of Karachi with pins. कि ये mochi यहाँ बैठा है, and I would go and sit with them. And I got to the point where I could tell the difference between imported polish and local polish. I could tell the difference between cherry blossom and kiwi and Chinese polish and whatever by taste.
Okay.
So you know how mochis, they put their finger on the polish and they touch it to their tongue. And by that taste, they can tell इसमें wax कौन सा है, इसमें solvent कौन सा है, इसमें डाई. और जैसे ही उनको पता चला कि वैक्स इंपोर्टेड वाला है, कार्नोबा है, ओहो ये तो कीवी है या चेरी ब्लॉसम है. एंड देन फ्रॉम द स्मेल दे कैन टेल द डिफरेंस बिटवीन कीवी एंड चेरी ब्लॉसम. सो आई गॉट टू दैट पॉइंट वेयर आई यूज्ड टू taste, and my family was like, are you insane? Who the hell eats cherry? I said, I'm not eating it, I'm tasting it. But so that's how involved you have to get with the brands that you work on. You have to really drink the Kool-Aid. You have to know what your brand stands for, and that's how you build brands in the long term as a marketing person. If you're not that passionate about it, you shouldn't be in marketing.
I mean, that's amazing. I have never met any marketer like this, and maybe that is the reason you're
there's
here.
not too many people crazy enough to eat shoe polish.
Crazy enough to go that deep for their brand या वो product या वो service. अच्छा देखिए, ये भी चीज़ है ना कि जो लोग जॉब कर रहे होते हैं, until मे बी शायद एंटरप्रेन्योर्स उस लेवल तक चले जाते हैं अपने बिजनेस के लिए, लेकिन जो बंदा जॉब कर रहा है वो किसी और के बिजनेस के लिए इस लेवल तक नहीं जाता है. This happens
because नौकरी है ना at the end of the day. But I've never thought of a नौकरी as a नौकरी. It's always been,
you're amazing.
It's always been something that you either love doing it or you don't do it. That's it. That's one last piece of advice. If you find that you are in the wrong place for whatever reason, you don't like your boss is an idiot, your respect is being compromised, you're not learning anything, the company's culture and values don't fit your whatever, there could be 1,000 reasons. Move. You are not a tree. I tell this to every young person. I mean, आप दरख्त तो है नहीं जो ज़मीन में गाड़े हुए एक जगह से आप हिल नहीं सकते, कुछ भी आ जाए आपने वहीं खड़े रहना. अरे भाई क्यों? आपके पास अल्लाह ताला ने 2 अदर टांगें दी हैं, आप मूव कर जाएं यार, कहीं और चले जाएं. For your own sanity, for your mental health, for your well-being, move. If that means you have to compromise on salary, move.
Great.
What is more important than your mental health?
Great piece of advice.
आप 2 लाख रुपए कमा रहे हैं और आपका दिमाग ऐसा, मतलब दिमाग का दही बना हुआ है कि आप इंसानों की तरह किसी से बात नहीं कर सकते. आप हर बंदे को काटने के लिए खड़े हुए हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि मैं 2 लाख रुपए कमा रहा हूँ. अरे फिर क्या 2 लाख रुपए लेके क्या कब्रिस्तान जाओगे? सखियासन में मेरे पास एक प्लॉट है. जगह मिल जाएगी आपको, कोई मसला नहीं है.
अमेजिंग. सो मेरे पास सवालात बहुत हैं, आपके पास तो जब आप जवाब देना शुरू करते हो मैं सुनना शुरू कर देती हूँ, एंड इट्स नेवर एंडिंग. बट ऑफ कोर्स सिंस वी आर शॉर्ट ऑफ टाइम, आई विल क्लोज द इंटरव्यू विद few 2-3 क्विक क्वेश्चंस. सबसे पहली चीज़ ये कि आपने माशाल्लाह इतनी सारी जगहों पे काम किया. आई हैव लाइक रिटन सो मेनी नेम्स दैट आई कैन नॉट एंड अप कंप्लीटिंग, बट फिलिप्स, रैकेट, जॉनसन एंड जॉनसन, नोवार्टिस है, IFCCO है, इत्तेहाद है, ब्रेनचाइल्ड है, करीम है, ग्राना है. वो कौन सी जगह है जहाँ आपको काम करके सबसे ज़्यादा मज़ा आया और क्यों?
Oh wow. So for various reasons, I've enjoyed working at almost all of these places, right? So if I run through it very quickly, right? I loved working at Philips because it was my first job, and I used to play cricket every day. We had a cricket ground inside our factory at site, and we used to play cricket every day.
Okay.
शाम को 5 बजे से लेके 7 बजे तक. बहुत तफरी है, बहुत सीखा. Reckitt में I got to change stuff. I got to really change the culture of that company because I was working directly with the MD, CEO of
Okay.
Reckitt, Tariq
Okay.
Ikram Saab,
Okay.
and Ali Shirazi. We had we had a very old-fashioned culture, and Tariq Ikram Saab worked with me directly to change the culture, right? So we used to launch products in 18 months to 2 years. He challenged me to launch a new product in 90 days, and we launched it in 88 days, right? So just doing that stuff with Tariq Ikram and Ali Shirazi was phenomenally exciting. And those people who I worked with, like Shoaib Pasha, who was the head of the factory at that time, Zubair, who was my ABM and is now, mashallah, VP of marketing in the Middle East, Momin Hukumdad, Amir Pasha, Maqsood Ahmed. These are people who I meet today after 25 years, and we still meet like, oh my God, it's still fresh, right? Because of the intensity of the experience. And then, J&J, amazing company to work for, driven by what they call a credo, which is a mission statement of the company, which basically says that our first responsibility is to our patients. Second responsibility is to our doctors and nurses who use our products. Third responsibility is to our community. And the fourth responsibility is to our shareholders. But if we take care of the first three, the fourth one will take care of itself. I mean, I've been in meetings at J&J where decisions have been made based on the credo. कि नहीं भाई ये credo की values के खिलाफ है, हम नहीं ये काम नहीं कर सकते. Amazing company, really, I worked with them for 5.5 years in 3 countries, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Canada. It was mind-blowing, amazing work. उसके बाद Novartis, I got to work in US and Canada, so I had a blast. Extremely exhausting, right? 2.5-3 साल, but exhausting beyond belief, but what a learning, right? Coming back to Dubai, working in ice cream, oh my God, I put on 20 pounds in the first year. I learned that I have no self-control when it comes to ice cream. I can eat unlimited amounts of ice cream.
You explored that you have an amazing love
I
of ice cream.
ate probably 800 different ice creams in the period of 3 years that I was there.
Okay.
Just because, we were doing our own R&D, plus we used to have these annual events where all the ice cream manufacturers would meet and we would all eat each other's ice cream. Fantastic experience. And then doing my own business,
Entrepreneurship with a different experience.
800 battery, and then working with Al Ittihad Credit Bureau, working with locals, Emiratis. Some of them are amazing friends of mine. Even I was in Dubai last week, and one of my friends came out, Badr, amazing guy. He always makes it, every time I go to Dubai, he comes to meet me wherever I am. And that was 10 years ago. And we're still in touch, alhamdulillah.
Lovely.
Got to introduce credit reporting in the Middle East, which was a very big thing for the UAE. उसके बाद पाकिस्तान में, being a CEO of a media agency, very, very interesting. I had 160 employees, and I introduced this thing called, Coffee with the CEO. So सुबह 9 बजे, I would meet one employee every day. So in 1 year, I met the whole team, 160 people, all over Pakistan.
Amazing.
Great place to learn. Again, very grateful to Rehan Merchant, who's the dawn of the media industry in Pakistan. And my senior from IBA days. So, he gave me that amazing opportunity. Careem was probably where I learned the most in terms of modern day startup, entrepreneurship culture. It was an amazing company. It was like going to university for entrepreneurship, but they were paying you to actually work there,
Wow.
So, great team, absolutely crazy team. You think it and you do it, like action at the speed of light, working with people like Junaid Iqbal and Zishan Beg, and they just incredible people, really impactful, and I learned so much. It was amazing. And then Graana, right, putting together a strategy for 4 companies of the Imarat group, the builder, the consumer portal, the sales portal, and then their technology company. So I did a 10-year strat plan for them before I left, which was great. And then working with NIC, the
You hosted a podcast.
Yeah, so I set up my own podcast while I was at NIC as well, Deep Dive, and that we've been interviewing founders and investors, and I mean, Courtney Powell came from 500 Global to Pakistan. She came to NIC on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. And 200 people showed up at Sunday morning at 9 o'clock to meet her.
Lovely.
And we were her first port of call. She recorded a podcast with us. And then she was in all over Pakistan. She met ministers and Hum TV and Falana and Dimkana.
Oh, God.
But when she left, the one podcast that she shared was Deep Dive. Because she said, you know, this really encapsulates what we're trying to do as 500 Global in Pakistan. So yeah, just working with startups every day is why I get out of bed now. I still love marketing because, you know, it's in my DNA. I can't get rid of it. It's something that is now part of me, right? It's like trying to cut off my own arm. So I would never do that. But what really excites me is being able to enable these founders with, yes, advice and mentoring and guidance and even marketing strategy advice and all of that, but also to be able to write checks, to be able to actually put money where my mouth is and say, yaar, ye founder jo hai na, ye tagda hai, ye cheeta hai. And so the founders that are unrepresented or misrepresented in Pakistan are the ones who don't speak English very well. They don't know how to make fancy pitch decks, and they don't, you know, wear Savile Row suits, and they haven't been to Harvard or Stanford, Yale, MIT. But they're building great businesses. They really, you know, they have a passion for what they're doing. They're going to keep doing it. Those are the people that I would really like to see, you know, come up. वो अदनान समी खान का था, lift करा. So yeah, I mean that's why I'm now at TMT Ventures, and
Lovely.
I'm really excited to be working with Abdul Aziz Anis. He's the CEO and great guy, and you know we have big plans. So you know, inshallah, watch this space. Starting the second half of this year, we should be
You're gonna have
getting
a
out
lot
there.
of other businesses. and
Inshallah,
entrepreneurs out
inshallah.
there.
That's
One
the
book
plan.
you'd like to suggest to the entrepreneurs for startups?
Please build your brand. Read my book, Building Brand You.
You read my book. That sounds
yeah,
good.
yeah.
And one quotation, one quote that you always love.
Oh God, don't put me on the spot like this. I used to like Winston Churchill quotes until I realized that he was so racist. He was like all the Goras of that time who were messing around in Pakistan, India, and you know, Africa, Palestine. All of them were so racist that when you read some of their quotations in context, you're like, oh God, I've been quoting this guy. No. So I stopped doing that. I think one of my favorite quotes is the Tyson quote from earlier, right? Which is, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yes.
And that's when you really find out, you know, what you're made of. Because if you take the punch and you're out for the count, you're done. Then you're never getting up, right? You lose. But if you shake it off, get up, dust yourself off and say, acha, let's go again, bro. That's when you realize what you are made of. Because हमारे जहन में हम सब जो है ना एक अपने फिल्म के हीरो हैं. हमारे सामने एक डायरेक्टर है. In this case, there are actually cameras on us right now, but in our lives, in our view, we are the heroes of our own films. हर वक्त हमारे ऊपर एक डायरेक्टर होता है जो पीछे से आवाज़ लगाता है, एक्शन. तो जब आपको चबाट लगती है ना, या आपको लात पड़ती है, या आपको मुक्का पड़ता है, that's when you find out really what you're made of. क्या आप उस वक्त वाकई फिल्म के हीरो की तरह आप खड़े होते हैं और you know, अपने आप को रीएडजस्ट करके फिर तैयार होते हैं, या आप कहते हैं अच्छा भाई मासलामा, मुझे माफ़ कर दो, गलती हो गई, मैं जा रहा हूँ, हम चले. So you know, to me that is really that is a single thing that entrepreneurs need in terms of spirit.
It was lovely meeting you, Omar. And I don't know, I really wish to meet you again and again. And I wish we shoot some episode 2 of yours so that we'd learn more. You have thrown some amazing tips. आपका experience इतना vast है कि वो 1 घंटे या 1.5 घंटे में cover तो नहीं हो सकता. But I thoroughly enjoyed meeting you. Any last few words you'd like to say?
Thank you for inviting me, Maham. It's a pleasure, and thank you to the cameraman. Thank you for being here, guys. You're here on a Saturday, and you know, I really appreciate it. कैमरे के पीछे वाले जो हैं वो अमूमन उनको एक्नॉलेजमेंट नहीं मिलती है, या ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एक थपकी मिल जाती है कि भाई शुक्रिया. But you know, for me, these are the guys who are going to make us look good, right? So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
You're welcome. You're welcome.